Let's get to the NBA. Legler, we opened the show showing you the Lakers continuing to roll. They knock off Oklahoma City. For those of you not paying attention, the Thunder are just about as good as anybody in the West. D'Angelo Russell leading the way last night with 26. Anthony Davis had 24 and 12. LeBron had 19 and 11. The Lakers have now won the season series against the Thunder 3-1, and they have the 6th best record in the NBA since the start of February. And a big reason why that has been is they have surged around LeBron James. Anthony Davis averaging 25 points a game and 13 rebounds. D'Angelo Russell stepping up what he's been doing. All the conversation about them being so reliant on LeBron getting a little less noisy. And so quickly, Legs, as we revisit this, again, we showed you the highlight of the game off the top of the show. We take their temperature a lot. Yeah. In December, they were pretty good, right? Yeah. I mean, they win the play-in. I keep calling it the play-in. Sorry, the in-season tournament. And then all of a sudden, I mean, they just disappear, basically, for the month of January. All of a sudden, do they look like a team that could get on a roll?
Yeah, saying we take their temperature a lot is the understatement of the century. I walk around with a thermometer in my hand at all times so we can take the Lakers' temperature. Listen, this is a roller coaster ride. I love the graphic we just put up. We can talk about LeBron because LeBron's always great. LeBron is not the variance with this team. The variance comes from Anthony Davis, D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves, Hachimura, some of their role-playing three-point shooters. And Anthony Davis, to me, is the biggest difference during this stretch. He's just been so physically dominant. His energy has been off the charts. When he plays against smaller front lines, as the Oklahoma City Thunder have, he absolutely destroys them. But his skill, his size, his strength, and LeBron and Anthony Davis, the way they can impose what they can do physically on certain teams, it's a little bit too much. Now, look, they've had some really good wins. They're 10-4 in their last 14. They've beaten some bottom feeders, and they've lost to some good teams. It's a mixed bag. They're in a very interesting stretch right now, Greeny. They are 3 games into a stretch of 10 out of 11 at home. So you can, and some of those teams are like middle of the pack to below. You're going to start to see the Lakers continue to climb a little bit here and really make things interesting. But they finish, I believe, with 8 out of 10 on the road. So that stretch at the end, I still think when it's all said and done, there's a very good chance the Lakers are a play-in team. Yep. They've got a lot of ground to make up. 3 games in the loss column on Phoenix to get out of the play-in. Phoenix is going to continue to win games once they get all 3 guys on the court. That's a big if. So I don't know that the Lakers can catch New Orleans, can catch Phoenix. I think they're going to be a play-in team. So it's a dicey, precarious situation when you're in a one-off situation, potentially, right? But there's no doubt they are more interesting and compelling than they were, 6 weeks ago. There's no question about it.
All right, let me give you another one then. So I don't do the league, I don't do the games anymore, but that doesn't mean I'm not paying attention. So I'm going to tell you what I think. In Milwaukee last night, no Giannis, no problem. Damian Lillard, 41 points. The Bucks beat the Clippers, who are one of the best teams in the league, 113-106. After starting 3-7 under Doc Rivers, Milwaukee is unbeaten since the All-Star break. They've won 6 consecutive games. And so here's what I'm going to tell you. We spent all yesterday, the Celtics just beat Golden State by 107 points, and no one can even play with them. Here's what I'm telling you. By the time we get to the end of this regular season, you and I will be having conversations about how it is a 2-horse race in the East. Milwaukee is every bit as dangerous in the East as the Celtics are, and they will prove it by the time we get to the middle of April.
I would agree with that statement, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the Knicks look like a Civil War reenactment right now, right? I mean, there's nobody healthy.
Yeah, I know.
And we're waiting to see what that would look like, because I was very high on their acquisitions, 4 new players in their rotation, all of whom fit well. Thibodeau's got a lot of depth, but you have to have time to sort out a rhythm, a flow, a rotation. If you're Tom Thibodeau's defensive communication, it takes time, and they're so banged up. So I think the Knicks are very interesting. I'd watch out for the Heat as well, but I think you're right. Right now, the way that they're playing, and we said all along, it's going to take time with a coach. It's even harder for a coach than a player on the fly to really impact the team, but they are definitely playing harder. So some message has gotten through to the Milwaukee Bucks.
Look, the way it all went down with Doc and him leaving here and everything else, there were a lot of people that were dying to pile on. We want to see this fail so badly. And it starts out slowly, so I think we overstated. By we, I mean sort of the royal we. the world kind of overstated how significant that is. As time goes on, they're going to get better and better. So I'm not just telling you they're the biggest threat to the Celtics in the East. I think that's almost an obvious statement. I'm telling you, I give them a 50-50 shot of beating them if they play each other in 7 games. I'll take Giannis over anybody on the other side.
I wouldn't go 50-50, but I
49-51.
I'd probably put that more at 65-35 Celtics. They would deserve to be in the ring with them, right, and go toe-to-toe. At the end of the day, the Boston Celtics, because they've got 5 players in their starting lineup that impact the game on both ends of the floor, and they absolutely end you with their three-point shooting. If you don't have an answer for that, and I don't think any teams in the Eastern Conference do, Boston Celtics are going to play in the NBA Finals, barring some sort of an injury. But the Bucks are going to make that series and that discussion a lot more interesting the rest of the season.
Legler for 3, because we all know he can knock down the 3 with absolutely anyone in history. So here we go, 3 big questions. Let's start with the Bucks beating the Clippers last night. They've won 6 straight. They did it without Giannis last night. Where are the Bucks right now as far as being a legitimate threat to Boston in the East?
Closing the gap, and clearly they will end up being the #1 threat to the Boston Celtics because of the injuries with the Knicks. I think the Cavs, there's a lot of uncertainty there. Can they really make that leap? And the Miami Heat are just still lurking beneath the surface. So it comes down to Milwaukee and Boston in the Eastern Conference. They're playing harder, Greeny. That's the bottom line. They're playing harder, and I think Damian Lillard looks a little bit more comfortable than he has to this point in the season.
I'm not in any way trying to diminish what the Celtics have done or are doing. They're a magnificent team. They're having one of the best regular seasons we've seen in quite some time. But when you get to a 7-game series in May, do you trust the team that has Giannis and Dame on it, or the team that right now that has had, at least from a historical perspective, Tatum and Brown on it?
I think right now I trust the team that's got more weapons on both ends, and that's Boston. That starting 5, what they can put on the floor with those 5 players, the number of threats they have offensively, and the way that all 5 of those guys impact the game on the other end of the floor, they've got depth. I even think Mazzulla's been through this now one time, right? Last year, that was a tough situation for him to inherit a team right before the season that was expecting to win a championship. He was called into question in the playoffs with some decision-making. I think he's past that point. I trust him now. So ultimately, it just comes down to the Celtics and the firepower that they have. That's what I trust.
That's fair. It's a day of planting my flag for me. I'm planting my flag in Milwaukee. I'm telling you they're going to wind up being a real threat to Boston in the playoffs. All right, next, we saw the Lakers beat the Thunder last night. All of a sudden, LeBron and the Lakers, they had a very bad January. They've gotten hot the last, call it 4 or 5 weeks. What does that look like as we go forward?
Well, listen, when Anthony Davis is having this kind of an impact consistently, and it seems to be always the question mark with the Lakers, when he's playing like this physically dominant, the Lakers absolutely are a team that you cannot turn your back on. You've got to pay attention to them, but it's going to be a tough road for them. I don't see them getting out of the play-in the regular season. You're going to have to make up a lot of ground on some good teams to do that. I don't see that happening for the Lakers, but I do see them being a legitimate threat to one of those top 2 seeds if it ends up being Minnesota and Oklahoma City. I don't think they threaten Denver, but Minnesota, Oklahoma City, if you get the Lakers in a first-round series and they've escaped the play-in, a lot of people at that point would put their money on the Lakers to win those series. Yeah, I don't know that I would. I don't have to make that decision yet. I'll see what it looks like at the time. But I'm just saying that's where a lot of people would be going if the Lakers are still alive at that point.
Well, look, I mean, it goes back to who you trust. And in that situation, I definitely trust LeBron more than anyone else on the floor. And I want to show you one more thing. So Victor Wembanyama was named the Rookie of the Month in February in the Western Conference because, of course, you have to have 2 Rookies of the Month every month. Who is he the best rookie since?
Yeah, look, I'm putting a lot of the stock in this on what happens on the defensive end of the floor. But when you look at the total impact on both ends, I think you got to go back to Tim Duncan. Really, that's 97-98 season. And look, let's be clear about this. Tim Duncan, his rookie year, the Spurs won 36 more games than they did the previous year. They won 56 games. Now, he was 21 years old, right? He played in college for 4 years, so it was a little bit different. Victor Wembanyama's teams won 13 games, so you have to put that into consideration. But I'm just talking about the overall impact on both ends of the floor. I'm going with Duncan because, listen, Green, listen to this number Hembo gave me. Do you know when Victor Wembanyama's on the court, this is a 13-win team. When he's on the court for the Spurs, that's the 6th rated defensive team in the league. When he's off the floor, they're dead last. That is the impact that Victor Wembanyama has had on that end.
For the purposes of context, the year that Tim Duncan came in as a rookie, David Robinson had been hurt the year before. That's why they were so bad. They didn't just get the rookie Duncan, but they get Robinson back, and they win a championship in the second year, or Duncan's second year in that strike-shortened or whatever shortened season that it was. The point is, Wembanyama, I've been riding this bandwagon because he's become the best show in the sport by far. And because the team is so bad, I don't know that people are paying as much attention to it as they should. He is as advertised.
He really is. And I'm trying to think about comparisons and ceilings. And someone asked me about a ceiling. I said that, well, by definition, you're saying that there's a certain level that he cannot break through. I don't think I put a ceiling on Victor Wembanyama. I mean, if I'm looking for comparisons, think about a player that could have the scoring dominance of Joel Embiid, right? The defensive impact and presence of a Giannis Antetokounmpo, and the entertainment value of a Steph Curry. That's what we're talking about, potentially all in one body. So I don't think there is a ceiling. Every night that I watch Victor Wembanyama play, he does 2 or 3 things in that game that I think he's the only player in the NBA that can make those specific plays. That's how eye-popping this guy is. He's on a bad team right now that people aren't paying attention to. It's going to take, I think, a couple years for the Spurs to be relevant in the Western Conference. But he has become now a runaway winner of Rookie of the Year. Chet Holmgren was better early. They were sort of even in the middle of the year. Over the last 2 months, Victor Wembanyama, I think, has absolutely seized the award. He's going to run away with it.
I think he both literally and figuratively blocked Chet Holmgren's effort at that the other night. Now, Wembanyama, people aren't paying enough attention. He's been sensational.